This podcast is sponsored by nobody. Hey dudes, welcome to Splat from the Past, the only 80s themed horror sci-fi show where things can get totally radical. Now today I will be welcoming back one of my favorite people from Down Under, and I'm talking about Debbie Kruger. She wrote the now legendary book that's going to be celebrating 20 years this year, Songwriters Speak, about Australian musicians. And we're going to nerd out on the entertainment of our youth, talking about film, television, and music from childhood. I want to see what she watched and listened to in Australia. I mean, I know about the music, but I want to find out what she listened to in terms of American music and British and so forth and stuff, and see what kind of programming there was, in Australia when she was growing up. And it's going to be a great conversation. I can't wait to have her back on. She is awesome. Also, rest in peace, my friend, the hilarious Jenny Pez Dispenser. I found out last night she died back in May. We did a wonderful podcast interview on May 6, 2018. Go take a listen to that episode number 87. We were going to do another, but sadly, it never happened. She's not suffering anymore. Thank you, my friend. Also, rest in peace, Tom Lehrer, one of the inventors of comedy music, a forefather, a hero of Weird Al Yankovic, one of them at least. And it's sad that he's gone. He was around forever. I remember several months ago, I was thinking, is Tom Lehrer still alive? I mean, God, he's ancient, but he's been around forever. Yeah. Also, go listen to the new Alice Cooper album with his original band, The Revenge of Alice Cooper. It fucking rocks. It's full of callbacks to their original albums. I highly recommend it. It even has a cover of the Yardbirds' I Ain't Done Wrong. And Robbie Krieger from The Doors plays lead guitar on the opening track, Black Mamba, which is kind of a throwback to Black Juju in a weird way. It's not as long. Black Juju was 9 minutes. This is like 5.5 minutes, but still, it has flourishes of it. It's a great album, and I highly recommend it. So yeah, here is my new interview with Debbie Kruger.
Hello?
Hey Debbie, welcome back. How are you today?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, it's summertime. Need I say more? It's fantastic.
I know Santa Monica is fantastic too.
Yeah. It's fabulous. So, going back in time, do you remember the first movie that impacted you as a child?
The first movie, probably Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Oh.
And I just remember going to it and I remember going home singing it. So I
Mm-hmm.
guess it impacted me. And it's so interesting because we still have Dick Van Dyke.
Yeah.
And he lives not far from me. I'm in Santa Monica. He's in Malibu, and he's about to turn 100. And
Mm-hmm.
so, yeah, I guess it was that.
Oh my God, have you ever met him?
No, no, I have not.
Oh my God, so I was at the same Monster Palooza as him walking around, and I didn't know he was there until long after I was gone. I was like, damn it, I could have met him.
Oh, yeah, there are some people that I feel like my life won't be complete unless I meet them. There are others I don't need to meet.
Yeah,
And sometimes if you meet somebody,
yeah,
unless it means something to them,
yeah,
it's kind of meaningless anyway. And
yeah,
I always think about that when I'm moving around and I want to meet this person. I'd love to get a photo with them, but does it mean anything in the long run?
yeah.
So, yeah, that's interesting, isn't it?
It is. Like, I was on your website and I saw you met Tony Curtis once.
Now, you see, that was fun because that was at an industry thing for
Mm-hmm.
World Expo 1988 when I was the Australian correspondent for Variety.
Yeah.
And the head of programming for the TV network that was broadcasting World Expo in Australia had a garden party for media and celebrities and whoever was there. And so that's where I met Tony Curtis. And that was like real conversation. That was great fun, yeah.
Was he flirtatious at all?
I don't remember remember him being flirtatious. I just remember him being charming and still kind of handsome, and somebody was taking photos because those weren't the days of selfies necessarily.
Yeah.
So I think that the photos were sent to me. Yeah, it was great fun.
Oh yeah, I know people who had plenty of encounters with him and stuff, including one person who got to smoke pot with him. He was a pothead.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, Back to the Future for me was like the first movie that impacted me. I used to look at my parents' yearbooks, and I always had that fantasy of going back in time and seeing them in high school and finding out why they're so fucked up and why I'm so fucked up.
Did your parents meet at high school?
They, you know what, they knew each other a little bit before that. My mom's 3 years older than my dad. She was a senior when he was a freshman, but they knew each other a little bit before that because my uncle was a year older than my mom, and they were best friends. So um, they didn't fall in love until like maybe a year or two after my dad graduated high school, and he was hanging out with her by that point, and he was babysitting my older brother and stuff.
Oh, well, you see, I'm obviously older than you, so I recall very clearly
Hmm.
going to the movie theater to see Back to the Future when it came out. I
Yeah.
remember the friend I went with. I remember not quite what I was wearing, but I remember going to see it. It was such a big deal when that film came out. But that was long after I had started going to the movies.
Yeah, it was a big deal. Everyone was expecting a bomb on their hands, but then when it just took off like that, I think that Family Ties had a big impact on the culture at that point. And that's one of the reasons why the movie took off like it did, because Universal didn't do a very good marketing campaign for the movie that was like spectacular. At least that's what the filmmakers thought. But
Mm.
it became huge by that point. Yeah, I saw it on video, like when it first came out on video, and I was just like, God, this is an amazing movie. It's got every genre you could think of in here, and it's just you never know what's going to happen next, and just the movie is so quotable to this day. And I like the sequels, but I wish they were never made because they made a lot of errors in the second one when they were trying to redo the when
Yeah.
they were trying to redo
Yeah,
the
but
first.
number three was great.
Three was great. I have more appreciation for it now than I did when I was a kid. I thought it was a little boring. I was like, why are they in the West? I didn't understand it.
I loved that one. I thought that was really well done.
I like
I
it.
loved the character development
Yeah.
of Doc, you
Yes.
know.
I agree. Yeah, we get to find out a little bit more about him in this movie, and he's not just, an eccentric scientist anymore.
So we're talking about what you like. Ask me some more questions about me.
Well, this is a two-sided conversation. We're going to talk about, what you like,
Uh,
what I like.
it's like that great line in Beaches where Bette
Yeah.
Midler says, but enough about me, let's talk about you. So what did you think about me?
Yeah. What movie genre did you gravitate toward growing up?
Hmm, that's a good question. Well, there are a few. I mean, I was so lucky because I was a teenager when Saturday Night Fever and Grease came out. And I remember very clearly going to both of those films. And so, having already kind of grown up as a child on, Chitty Chitty Bang Bang and those sorts of films as well, I guess movie musicals were a thing. But I also very quickly developed a passion for film, dramatic film about deep, intense friendship.
Hmm.
My favourite film of all time is actually Peter Weir's Gallipoli,
Oh yeah.
which is not because it's a war film, but because it's about mateship and friendship and the what you'll do for a friend.
Hmm.
Um, and I have a long relationship with that film and Peter Weir. My second favourite film is Julia, starring Jane Fonda and Vanessa Redgrave,
Oh,
and
great movie.
um, that was that's all about friendship
Mhm.
and what the lengths that you will go to in the most dangerous circumstances to do something for your best friend. Um, So I think that translated later on into why I loved Beverly Hills 90210, even though I was kind of a generation older
Hmm.
than the standard fan base for that,
Yeah.
because at the heart of that TV series was friendship. And similarly, Sex and the City, which is still probably, my favorite lighthearted TV series of all time,
Yep.
because it all pointed back to the friendships, to the point where at the very end, when Big sits down in the cafeteria, in the cafe with the three women, and
Yep.
says, "You three are the loves of her life, and any guy is lucky just to come in fourth." And
Yeah.
that encapsulated the entire 6 seasons of Sex and the City. And it's why I'm watching and just like that, even now, even though it's not very good,
I've
because
heard.
I just believe in those friendships and those women.
Yeah. Oh, we'll talk about Sex and the City in a little bit, but yeah, I've heard that the new one is not as good. I listen to Kristen Davis's podcast every week called "Are You a Charlotte?" and it's pretty entertaining. Um,
Yeah, I haven't listened to that yet. I did listen back on some of Shannon Doherty's podcasts when she died. Um, and in fact, that whole cast have been really, of Beverly Hills 90210, have been really putting themselves out there more than ever in a way. Um, but friendship in films, yeah. I mean, that, just to go back to your question, I think there were a lot of amazing post-Vietnam War films as well. I particularly loved Coming Home with
mhm.
Jane Fonda and
Yeah.
John Voight.
Yeah.
And I mean, the late 70s was a terrific time for
Yes.
filmmaking. Terrific. Yeah.
It was brilliant, the 70s, because, here we are in Vietnam and post Vietnam, and just movies are so real, so attention grabbing, and just honest. And then by the 80s, yeah, they become more like, commercial entertainment fluff pieces, but at least we still like them,
And franchises.
and franchises, yes. And yeah, the 70s was just so great. My favorite movie of the 70s is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Well, actually, now that I think about it, because I just mentioned the word franchises, and I have to say, I've only ever seen the original Star Wars and none of the others. But
Hmm.
my favorite film, kind of in that supernatural sci-fi genre, from that late 70s but early era of those films, was actually Close Encounters of the Third Kind,
Hmm.
because it was so much more than a sci-fi film. It was about
Hmm.
deep thinking people and connection, and the whole build up of Richard Dreyfuss's character and journey in that
Yeah.
was about something that he knew to be deeper than what his day-to-day life was, that he had to follow it. And I did a road trip around America 4 years ago, and I went way out of my way in Wyoming to
Hmm.
go to Devil's Tower so that I could pay homage to that film. So, yeah, I was really lucky to kind of be young in
Hmm.
an era of such um, innovative, dramatic filmmaking and culture generally.
Yeah. Do you remember, like, when horror movies were starting to become popular, and they were like so groundbreaking, their Night of the Living Dead was 1968, and then for like 5 years nobody could top that. And then The Exorcist came out, and then Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then pretty soon we were off to the races with horror.
Do you know, I've never been into horror genre. I have friends, we have mutual friends who are deeply into the horror genre.
Like Stacy.
It's never been, yes, Stacey. Hi, Stacey. It's never been my thing.
Hmm.
But I went out of my way, including stuffing my bra because I was only, I think, 13,
Yeah.
to go and see Carrie when it came out, which in Australia was restricted for 18 over,
I love that.
because I had read the book and just thought it was an outstanding piece of writing and story, and I had to see it. And Sissy Spacek in Carrie is, I think, one of the great horror performances.
Yes.
And that's a whole different kind of horror, because while there's plenty of bloodletting, it's about relationships, it's about people, it's about connection or not feeling connected, and the lengths that you will go to retaliate if you don't feel included, belonging. It's a deeply emotional story, which is why I related to it. But for the most part, horror has never been my thing.
Yeah.
I'm terrified of it. I'm pretty sure I either went to, did I go to see The Exorcist? I mean, I think the early horror film, when I say early, I mean in my life,
Mm-hmm.
that probably impacted me would have been Rosemary's Baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And again, I read the book, and my mother had an incredible collection of books on her shelves, and including Zavira Hollander's Happy Hooker. Never got to see a film made out of that book.
Yeah.
But she never restricted books from me, and so I read everything. And if I loved the book or was kind of moved in some way by it, I would seek out the film. So Rosemary's Baby is probably an early horror movie in my life, and Psycho, which I would have seen later anyway. I obviously wouldn't have seen that when it first came out.
I got to interview the Japanese photographer in Rosemary's Baby about 9 months before he died, and he just had nothing but good memories of making that movie, and he just had respect for everybody on that set and just the careers that they went on to have. That was another one, 1968, Night of the Living Dead, Rosemary's Baby. Those were like two different types of horror films that really, really floored the subgenres of those particular horror films,
I think the thing with horror is there are different kinds of horror. Obviously, there's gratuitous bloodletting horror, which some people just crave and love.
Yeah.
And then there's the horror that does come from relationship situations, humanity, which I think was partly Rosemary's Baby, was certainly Carrie.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I went to see The Substance, because I don't actively go and seek out horror movies today. I just don't want to watch goriness, but I deliberately went to see The Substance because of Demi Moore's acclaimed performance in it, and because we all thought she was going to get the Oscar. And so I wanted to have seen it. But when I have to watch a film, more than 50% of it with a cushion over my face, if I'm watching it at home, then that's too much for me. I don't like to feel that way.
Yeah, I totally get it. It's not for everybody. What did you like for comedy film?
When I was younger or any time?
Yeah, when you were younger.
Comedy. Isn't that interesting? I'm not thinking. There's nothing coming to my mind.
Anything that Mel Brooks did?
Oh gosh, thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, what's the one? Is it History of the World? What's the one where the camera pans out and smashes through the window? Do you know the one I'm talking about?
No, but I do remember in Spaceballs, there's a recurring gag where, like, Lord Helmet's always, like, walking into the camera or something's happening with that stupid mask he's wearing. The helmet mask.
Yeah, I think it might have been History of the World Part 1, but I'd have to go back and look. It might be an earlier one, but there's a great scene because Mel Brooks was always great about removing the fourth wall.
Yeah.
And there is a great scene where there's a scene inside a house and the camera's panning back and keeps going back and back and back and then just smashes through the window. And everyone in the scene looks up. I loved Mel Brooks. My dad was a huge fan of Blazing Saddles. He just thought that was the most hysterical film ever. I found that a little bit crass, but also I loved Steve Martin.
Mm-hmm.
And so both of their work really appealed to me. I It's funny, yeah. I'm trying to think because there must have been so many times I went to the cinema and just laughed until I cried. But whenever I think of film and film I love, it's always drama and romantic comedy. And the romantic comedies really came into their thing for me in kind of the late 80s with When Harry Met Sally, and then later on with Notting Hill, which is my third favorite film of all time.
Yeah. Do you like The Jerk with Steve Martin?
I think so, but I would have, you know what? I'd have to revisit it.
It,
Um, I really loved LA Story, but that was later on.
yeah. I love The Jerk. Even though it was his first movie, I still think it's his best movie. I just love how he emulates all the great masters of comedy in that movie. Chaplin, Keaton, everybody who came before him, even Jerry Lewis to an extent in certain places. And I just love how sweet he is in that, and just how he's just trying to do something with his life, and he becomes a billionaire, and of course it ends very quickly for him.
Now I feel like I have to go revisit that. There's some films that stick with me that if they on TV, I will sit down, drop everything, and watch them again, even if there are commercials, like say Grease.
Yeah,
But there are other films that I've kind of left behind and I need to be reminded. So thank you for that reminder.
of course. Did you ever see Pennies from Heaven?
I don't think I did.
That was his second movie, Steve Martin's second movie, and I just watched it the other day. It still holds up, but I could see why it was such a failure at the time. Everyone lip syncs the songs in the movie because they're 1930s, recording songs. And I think that if they had some professional singers like do current versions of the songs and then they lip sync it, it probably would have been a bigger hit film, because it's not a bad film, but it's very, very dark.
Going back to Mel Brooks, I think it's Mel Brooks, The Producers.
Yeah.
That's probably the first that I just laughed until I cried. And being Jewish, Springtime for Hitler.
Yeah.
I mean, heavens, it's just so audacious.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's the thing about Steve Martin, Mel Brooks, is the audaciousness that they would stick their neck out to that extent. It's sort of brave comedy.
It is very brave comedy. And God, so many of his movies you couldn't do today because of the politically correct,
I
climate. You
know.
know.
I know. I know. I mean, and truthfully, even all those rom-coms that I love
Hmm.
from the late 80s and through the 90s, they're so white, but they're the people who are making it. I
Yeah.
didn't sort of watch them thinking, why isn't this more diverse? And that's one of the drawbacks I have felt about And Just Like That,
Yeah.
is that they've been at pains to be very diverse and inclusive to the point where it doesn't necessarily feel like a natural trajectory for those characters.
Right.
But that's a whole other story. Um, Actually, yeah, I work in music and film,
Right.
and we work in these areas because we're a fan. But I don't necessarily sit and think about all the films I love. Although I will always ask somebody I meet for the first time, "Well, what's your favorite film of all time?" And it always stuns me when somebody doesn't know what their favorite film is.
Hmm.
So you're making me think. I know what my favorite three films are, but you're making me think about other films that have been, in my
Hmm.
life, but that I haven't necessarily revisited in a long time.
Can you share what those three films are?
Oh, I've already mentioned them. Gallipoli is number
Oh,
one,
right, right.
by the greatest Australian filmmaker of all time, Peter Weir.
Yep.
Julia, Fred Zimmerman's film
Right.
with Jane Fonda, which about Lillian Hellman and her childhood best friend Julia. Vanessa Redgrave actually won the Academy Award for that, for Best Actress in a Supporting Role. And Notting Hill, because it is just the quirkiest, sweetest, most outrageously implausible romantic comedy with that great Richard Curtis script. And I can recite nearly every line in that film.
Mm-hmm.
And my favourite line is not the one that everyone presumes would be a favourite line, which is, I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her. My favourite line is a little earlier when Hugh Grant says to Julia Roberts, well, you, awards, glory. And she goes, oh, no, it's all nonsense, really. I had no idea how much nonsense it was, but nonsense it all is. And that is like my motto in life. Everything's such nonsense.
Yeah.
And I love that line. And I love that Julia Roberts spoke such quirky, quaint English dialogue as opposed to American Hollywood dialogue. I loved that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's peppered all through that film, her saying things that would not come naturally to an American Hollywood-style actress.
Yeah.
I just loved all of it. I love that film so deeply and passionately that it's insane how much I love it. And if only I could meet Julia.
Yeah.
That would make me happy.
Speaking of Peter Weir, he directed a great movie I love called Witness with Harrison Ford.
Oh, hell yeah. That was his... I mean, he'd already made The Year of Living Dangerously.
Yeah.
But Witness was really his Hollywood breakthrough.
Right.
And with Harrison Ford and Kelly McGillis, and it was just so beautiful and poignant and gentle and for what was essentially a detective cop drama. That's a beautiful, beautiful film, as was Dead Poets Society. Peter Weir's favourite film of his is actually Truman Show.
I love that movie too. That's a great one.
And if you've seen the TV series Paradise, that sort of,
I haven't seen it.
With Sterling K. Brown. Oh my gosh,
No.
You have to watch it.
Okay.
It's really powerful. On Hulu, I think. And it's kind of a later extension of what Peter Weir set up in the Truman Show.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, and they did The Mosquito Coast the next year after Witness, and for some reason that movie didn't catch on with the public. That was like 2 movies Harrison Ford did that in that decade that were like huge failures. The other was Frantic, which I think the reason why that movie failed was because of the stink of having Roman Polanski, who was wanted here in the States directing it,
Right. Yeah. And you're right, and I don't really think of those films, but they're there in his canon as well, for sure.
When in the late 90s, Australian actors were starting to become huge stars here in the States, like Nicole Kidman and Russell Crowe, and then eventually Heath Ledger. Like, it was the beginning of, Hollywood making the medieval period pieces and having both Australian actors and British actors in Hollywood films. Were you surprised back then that phenomenon was happening?
No, because Mel Gibson was already a star by the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
I was friends with Nicole Kidman around that time. I had been the first journalist to write a profile of her as an adult actress because she'd grown up, on screen, and we became really good friends. I went to the wedding when she married Tom Cruise, and we stayed in touch for a while after, and then not, but. I remember hanging out with her while she was making Dead Calm. And while it all happened kind of bigger and quicker than any of her friends might have imagined, I don't think any of us were particularly surprised.
Yeah.
And so, her career is incredible. No, I don't think I was ever surprised, because the weird thing about growing up in that land down under was we had our own huge pop culture thing happening in film and music. And I was also, I did my master's in theatre studies, and when I was writing for Variety in the 80s, I was reviewing theatre. And I was seeing Judy Davis on stage and Colin Friels, and I saw Kate Blanchett on stage with Geoffrey Rush
Yeah.
in the early 90s. And so it just seemed natural to us that these people would be recognized. And once they were, I mean, I remember going to see LA Confidential and with Guy Pearce and Russell Crowe and thinking, wow, two young Aussie actors in this hot film. But it in a way it wasn't that surprising. So the short answer is no, not surprised.
Yeah.
Australians are terrific.
Absolutely. I love them. Did you have any movie crushes growing up?
Oh, movie crushes. No, it was always pop. I was a pop music girl. I had my pop star crushes. Movie crushes, no, not so much. I don't think I ever saw movie stars as people that I might come into contact with, although that obviously happened. But pop stars, that was my thing.
Who are some of the ones that you liked?
Oh, well, back in the sort of early 70s crush time, see, I was an early fan of Rick Springfield.
Right.
He was adorable. And David Cassidy and David Essex. Oh, my God.
Oh, wow.
David Essex, who was actually a very soulful singer, but so handsome. I used to subscribe to a pop magazine from England called Pink, and it used to get mailed out to me every month, and it was full of beautiful headshots of those guys. David Essex, Rick Springfield, who was quite big in the UK at that time, David Cassidy. I wasn't a fan of Donny Osmond particularly. I have a lot of respect for him now because, the way he has endured and earned respect as he's aged has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Who else did I have a crush on? Well, they were Australians, you see. We had our own pop culture, and our top pop group was Sherbet. And so, I went on to work with them later, but back in the 70s, they were just pop stars. And John Paul Young, who had a big hit here, Lovers in the Air, and people like that. I mean, I went to pop and rock concerts from a very, very, very early age on my own. I was going to concerts on my own from the age of 14, with my parents' blessing. My dad would come and pick me up. So that whole music world and the affection that I had for music stars and the fantasy life I would create in my rich and fertile imagination was more music focused than film focused.
I get it. Yeah. I mean, I had crushes on Madonna and Belinda Carlisle and Susanna Hoffs of the Bangles. Those were like my rock star crushes.
Oh, you're such an 80s boy.
Yeah.
There was a show on here at the Hollywood Bowl the other night. I want my 80s with Rick Springfield and John Waite and Paul Young and Wang Chung. I didn't go. I thought about it, but I didn't go.
Oh, God. I would have loved that show. Yeah, they're doing all these 80s nostalgia concerts, and they're getting all the one-hit wonders and everybody together, I mean, I've been to, shows in the past and stuff, but I haven't been to actual one of those concerts. I like to go though.
What was your first concert that you went to?
I saw the Monkees at Candlestick Park before a Giants game when I was 14. They drove off the field in a Cadillac, which was fantastic, and there was only...
What year was that?
1997.
1997?
Yeah, they had a new album out that year, and they had a short-lived ABC series that was really terrible.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were all doing that then.
Oh yeah.
You have to ask me about my first concert because it's quite extraordinary.
Okay, what was your first concert?
My first concert was on December the 5th, 1975.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Bay City Rollers,
Nice.
but what's really interesting is the opening act. The opening act was Andy Gibb,
Ooh.
and he was still uh, learning his craft in Australia on the instruction of his brothers, who weren't quite ready for him. And it's so interesting because every weekend I listen to American Top 40 from the 70s, Casey Kasem.
Yeah.
And in that 77, 78 era, Andy Gibb was just, and his brothers were ruling the charts. But I saw him in December 1975 when he was so young.
Mm-hmm.
And I just think, Bay City Rollers, whatever. I mean, that was a flash in the pan for me. I was never a hardcore Rollers fan.
Yeah.
But seeing Andy Gibb that young, learning how to be an artist was something I've never forgotten.
And that brings me to television. Did you watch the Bay City Rollers variety show?
No, but I'm really sorry. I have to tell you something else before
Go
we
ahead.
talk about that.
Go ahead.
What's really impressive is my second ever concert.
Mm-hmm.
It was Queen with Freddie in April 1976, performing A Night at the Opera.
Oh, God.
Go on, be flabbergasted.
I'm
How
jealous.
good is that?
I'm jealous. Yeah. I think I...
Sixth row center.
God.
I will never forget that. Yeah, it was pretty good. I mean, I saw ABBA on their Australian tour in 1977. I had a great childhood.
Oh, my God.
But TV, no, I never saw the Bay City Rollers variety. No, never.
It was
never
pretty...
wanted to.
I've seen it on YouTube. It's pretty bad.
I am sure it's bad.
The problem is, we had a popular variety show out here in the States called Laugh-In, and after that show...
Oh, we loved Laugh-In.
Yeah.
Suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me.
Suck it to me, yeah. And after that show, everyone was trying to be Laugh-In, and they failed. I mean, occasionally people would catch fire, like Sonny and Cher. I think they did a great job of having a variety show.
We loved Sonny and Cher in Australia. We loved Laugh-In, and my dad loved... I don't know if you ever came across it. It was a British guy called Benny Hill, the Benny Hill Show. It was so politically incorrect.
Yes, I own VHSs of him. Yes, I own the old VHS prints of his show. I love Benny Hill.
But if you want to talk about TV,
yeah,
one of my favorite TV series. I don't know if you ever came across it. Again, it was British.
Mm-hmm.
It was called The Champions.
No, not.
It was about three spies who had been in a plane crash in the Andes, I think, and they were rescued by these strange people there, and all given bionic powers. So it preceded by nearly a decade the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman.
Yeah.
Seek it out. It's so brilliant. The Champions.
Okay.
It ran for several years. I've got the whole box set on. I think I might have video. Maybe I've got DVD. It's brilliant.
Oh, God, yeah. I'm a huge Benny Hill fan, and I know you guys had the Paul Hogan show, which he was kind of like your Benny Hill.
Did.
Yeah.
Well, he was, and yes, I mean, we had Paul Hogan, and, the guy who was Strop, John Cornell, was his manager.
Yep.
Who was quite a genius.
Yeah.
Yep, we did.
Yeah. I
don't know what to say about it. I met Paul here in LA when they brought out the last Crocodile Dundee sequel.
Yeah.
Not that long ago, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And he's absolute gentleman.
Yeah.
Absolute charming guy. But back in the 70s, he was such a kind of quintessential part of Australian comedy culture. I mean, and then he went, we didn't even talk before about Australians conquering Hollywood, about Crocodile Dundee. And by then, remember also Olivia Newton-John was a huge star.
Of course.
Who'd crossed over from music to film. So yeah, I mean, for a very small populated country, we definitely produced a lot of big stars.
Do you remember Cheryl Rickson?
I do.
I had her on the podcast.
Wasn't she a Charlie's Angel?
No. That's Cheryl Ladd. Cheryl Rickson.
Oh, okay.
She was like your it girl in Australia. She was in naked magazines, and she was on game shows, and she was on that popular soap opera, The Box.
Oh my God, yes, The Box. But
yeah.
You see, you should do some homework, and I don't think she ever became anything in America. But
no, she didn't.
Before The Box, no, this is someone else I'm going to tell you about. Before The Box, there was the first really sexy, saucy show on Australian TV was called Number 96.
Right.
It had the first openly homosexual male character. Wow. It had a gang rape. And it had the first full frontal female nude, an actress named Abigail. And Abigail was Australia's real sex siren in the early 70s. She also released a version of Je T'aime, the French pop song. So Number 96 was like something, it was on at 8:30 p.m. every night for 30 minutes, and children my age were not supposed to watch it, but my parents didn't mind. They were very liberal with me, actually, when I think about it.
Yeah, same with my parents. Yeah, I used to watch this show late at night when I was like 14, 15. Oh my God. It was on HBO. It was called Shock TV or Shock Video, and they would show clips of the raciest shows in Australia, England, Japan, everywhere around the globe.
That's so funny.
Yes.
I've never heard of that.
You guys, oh my God, had pretty racy shows. There was this one I saw where this woman, this big-breasted woman goes to visit her husband in the hospital, and he's in traction. He's got the mummy bandages and everything, right? And she starts giving him a blowjob, and all you can see is his eyes getting wide. Oh! And then, as it turns out, her husband was moved. It wasn't her husband.
What show was that?
Well, I don't remember the name of it, but the show that it was clipped on was called Shock TV or Shock Video.
That's funny. I don't know what show that might have been, but I will say that it does shock me that here in the United States, women still wear bras in sex scenes in bed.
Yes.
And it just makes no sense at all, because there is not a woman I know that would wear a bra with underwire.
Right.
While having sex. But anyway, that's a whole other subject.
I agree, though. Do you know what's become really popular, though, amongst actresses who refuse to do nudity? Is side boob.
Oh, okay.
They'll show side boob, but that's about it. They don't want to go full frontal with it. That's kind of weird, but hey, as a guy, I'll take it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because they will on the big screen, on cinema.
Yeah. But
now those movies, for the most part, are viewed at home anyway. So I don't know that I don't really look into it much, but I watched every episode a million times of Sex and the City, and I watch them just like that, and I still can't work out why Sarah Jessica feels she needs to wear a bra. It's like, why don't you just put the sheet over you if you want modesty? But
I have no idea. So what are your favorite episodes of Sex and the City?
A Woman's Right to Shoes. Where Tatum O'Neill throws a baby shower for her third child, and Carrie's Manolos get stolen, and the whole episode is about her, analysing the fact that she's spent all this money on her friend's engagement and wedding and 3 baby showers, and nobody does anything for the single girl. And I just thought it was really beautifully scripted, and I love that one. Oh my God, I often go back to it just to watch this particular scene. I can't remember the name of the episode, but it's where Charlotte and Harry have broken up, and she goes to the synagogue singles mixer, and
Yeah.
she's talking to this handsome guy, but she's not in the least bit interested, and he leaves, and then these two women go off. There's nobody good here. All that are left are the fatties and the baldies. And Charlotte's eyes light up, and she's like, "Is he here?" And she turns around, and there's Harry, she asks if he would just give her another chance and maybe just go out with her. She doesn't care if they never marry. And he goes, "Oh no, that's not good enough." And he gets on his knees and he proposes, and it's just magnificent. I love that. And there are so many great episodes of Sex and the City, so many. But I particularly love the final episodes when Carrie goes off to Paris to be with the Russian, and it all comes back to what home means for her, and what the most important in relationships in her life mean to her, and what love means to her.
Yeah.
And she's finally in Paris. She's shopping in Dior. She's living the dream, but she's miserable. And I love those. I watch them over and over again, and I just love that scene I referred to earlier where Big sits down with the three women in the cafe and says, "Look, you three are the girls of the loves of her life, and any guy is lucky just to come in fourth." And then he says, "But I do love her." Mm-hmm. And they all get him finally. They get that he gets where his place is in that world, in Carrie's world, and in the friendship world. And that's when they finally help him. I love that. I love it so much. It hurts. And I love the film, the first film. The second film was nonsense, but the first film was beautiful.
Yes, I agree. And I love when Charlotte's in hilarious situations, like with the shoe salesman who's a foot fetishist, I love that one.
Well, actually, do you remember the episode where she decides she's going to volunteer for the blind?
Oh, yeah.
So she goes shopping blindfolded, and she gets lost, and when she takes off the blindfold, she finds Carrie trying on shoes, and the shoe salesman is Andy Cohen, and they just reprised his role as that shoe salesman in the latest episode of And Just Like That.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, and also the one where she's with Mr. Pussy. That's a good one too.
Well, and there are so many great episodes about Samantha that we haven't discussed, and so many great lines. And the one where she's with the guy who's too big, and then she's with the guy who's too small, and
the priest
and
one.
then she dates the guy with the funky tasting spunk.
Oh yes. Yes. Remember the one where she's with the priest and she calls him Friar Fuck?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Or the one later on, I love the episode, which I think is called One, which is where Miranda finally admits that she loves Steve at Brady's first birthday party. And Steve's mother has hired a clown. And Carrie turns up and she screams and she goes, "Nothing scarier than a clown." I love the way she's nothing scarier than a clown. Yeah, there's so many great episodes and so many great lines. And I just love how the characters matured and developed and honed in on what mattered to them, which was their friendship and relationships that would endure. And that's why the relationship that Charlotte has with Harry was so special, because she'd married the handsome rich guy first, and that was just a joke.
Yeah.
And then she married the guy with a hairy back, who was bald and Jewish, and the lengths she went to be with him was just beautiful and charming. And funnily enough, in And Just Like That, they are kind of caricatures of themselves now, but some people absolutely love how that marriage and those characters have developed. I
Yeah.
kind of cringe a little, but I'm glad that they're still together and strong.
Oh yeah. And I mean, the new show must not be the same without Kim Cattrall in it. But like,
It's so sad without her in it because
yeah,
the character they've put in to try and be a Samantha replacement,
hmm
Seema, just doesn't feel real to me in that dynamic of those friendships. And the reason that they gave for Samantha to no longer be there didn't feel plausible enough when she was in the Sex and the City in the first film, when she was living in LA with Smith. She would fly into New York at a moment's notice. Well, if she's in London, she could be flying back to New York at a moment's notice, and she never does. When they said that Kim Cattrall didn't want to be in it anymore, and there was such bad animosity between her and Sarah Jessica Parker,
yeah,
my feeling was that the only way to write Samantha out was actually for the cancer to have returned and for them to kill her off,
yeah,
which they didn't do. And so when they killed Big off at the end of that first episode, it was the most unexpected thing for me.
yeah.
And it was strange to me that it took the entire season before Samantha was willing to see Carrie.
hmm
But I do find all of that fascinating. I do. And Kim Cattrall's a great actor.
Very
I actually
good.
saw her on stage in the UK a few years back
Yeah.
In a French classical play by Racine.
Yeah.
I think she was in Phaedra. and she really is a true actor.
Oh yeah.
But I've never understood what happened in that relationship and why
I don't either.
she needed to be so outspoken about it. Because absolutely everyone else who works with Sarah Jessica Parker seems to adore her.
Because I grew up watching Kim Cattrall and Police Academy and Porky's and Turk 182 and Mannequin. I mean, she's an icon, a real icon.
She really, really is. I think that there's probably something in there that she just didn't want to be defined by Samantha.
Right.
But what a great career character to have played.
Absolutely. When you were growing up, was there like a lot of American sitcoms on in Australia, like Mary Tyler Moore?
Heavens! Oh God! Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I grew up on the Brady Bunch, Gilligan's Island, Hogan's Heroes.
Yeah.
I wasn't a big Hogan's Heroes fan, but I loved Gilligan's Island. I loved the Brady Bunch. What else? All of that. And yeah.
Nice.
And drama. I mean, I adored Marcus Welby, MD. That was my first medical drama.
Gregory Harrison. Oh no, that's James Brolin. I was thinking of.
Oh, James Brolin, Be Still My Beating Heart. And the only woman who deserves him is exactly the woman he's with, Barbara Streisand.
Barbara Streisand, yep.
Who I adore. And if you want to go back to some comedies, I mean, I remember going to see, comedy films. I remember going to see What's Up, Doc, and
I love that movie. One of my favorites.
Those sorts of films. But we grew up on American television, but we also had British TV.
Oh yeah.
Like just the same as with music, Australia was this really interesting fusion of American and British influences with our own culture and our own TV shows and our own music and our own movies. So when I was a kid, I viewed Australian pop culture as equal to those. And it was really only when I started coming to LA and allowed myself to lean into my true passion of the California scene and music here that I became more of a cultural snob. And while I'm still very fond of all the culture I grew up with in Australia, music-wise, I don't see it as... And I wrote the book, as you know. We talked about my book, Songwriters Speak, which is coming up this week to 20 years since it was first published.
God.
Australian music from that era is one of my absolute encyclopedic specialties.
Oh, yeah.
But if it was my last night on earth and I had to choose between seeing my favourite ever Australian band, say Little River Band,
Mm-hmm.
and the Eagles one more time, I'd go and see the Eagles.
Well, the Eagles are American.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, my grand passion is mainly the American music scene, and that's why I'm here. That's why I live here.
That's why I wanted to ask you. Like, we talked so much about Australian music last time. Like, what did you like as far as American and British music?
Yeah, well, my three favourite bands from the age of 13 are still my three favourite bands.
Mm-hmm.
They've changed a lot in terms of personnel, but let's talk about their classic eras. Eagles, Chicago, Queen.
Oh, great bands.
And Queen, I think, with Adam Lambert, even without John Deacon, present as authentic as a heritage band lacking original members can, because Brian May and Roger Taylor are so essential and so monumentally talented to this day.
Right.
Chicago is a really sad story.
Yeah.
I am going to see them at the Hollywood Bowl in September, and at this point, there's a really strong likelihood that there will only be one original member on stage with them, because for most of this year, well, for all of this year since February, Robert Lamb has not appeared on stage with them.
Yeah.
And because the band will not make a formal announcement as to why Robert Lamb is not touring with them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to pretend it's not real, it's worrying people. And it's really worrying because he's not been in great health.
Yeah.
Jimmy Pankow just picks and chooses where he's going to play. I'm hoping he'll do the Hollywood Bowl because it's LA.
Yeah.
And they're doing 3 nights there. But Lee Loughnane is now the only original member who is consistently on stage with them. And everyone else is like, I don't even know half their names anymore. And that's really sad. But a lot of people still go because they love the music. My feeling is when a band becomes a cover band of themselves, it's not the same. So I saw Earth, Wind and Fire at the Hollywood Bowl on July 4th. There's really only a couple of original members there. And Philip Bailey, I can't remember if he was really, really original.
Yeah.
But he goes far back enough and sings beautifully that between him and Verdine White, you still feel it's Earth, Wind and Fire. But there are other bands, if they mean so much to me as Chicago did for so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew them, I've written about them, I've seen so many Chicago shows, but to not have Robert Lamb and Jimmy Pankow on stage, it's
Right.
no longer the band that I love. The Eagles, it's a whole other thing because Glenn died.
Yeah.
And initially I was quite angry about Don Henley deciding to regroup and keep going.
Yeah.
But everything they do better than you expect.
Oh, yeah.
Even their best to be. So I went to the Sphere in February. I went for 2 nights. The first night I sat way up high so I could experience the venue. The second night, a girlfriend had bought us second row seats, so we saw them where we're meant to see them. Even with only one original member. And I argue that both Joe Walsh and Timothy Schmidt are classic members, and it doesn't matter that they weren't in the first 4.
Oh, yeah. I saw Joe Walsh in 2016, and Glenn had just died, and he did Take It to the Limit as a tribute to him, and I thought that was really sweet.
Ah, yeah. I didn't get to see the Eagles in the 70s. I didn't see them until 1995 with Hell Freezes Over. But Chicago, I first saw in January 1979 in Sydney.
Wow.
And met them all. I was a fan.
Mm-hmm.
I called the hotel where rock stars used to stay in the 70s, the Boulevard, a few days earlier. And I said, can you please tell me, are Chicago booked in to stay at the Boulevard? And the receptionist said, yes, they are. And I said, can you please tell me when they're arriving? And she said Thursday night.
Yeah.
Can you imagine calling a hotel nowadays to ask if your favourite rock band were checking in?
Oh, yeah.
So my girlfriend Robin and I trekked into the Boulevard Hotel on the Friday and
Mm-hmm.
spent the whole day hanging out with the band. They were just there, and met them all, and then met their tour manager, who very kindly gave us backstage passes, and we were in the front row at the concert, and we hung out backstage with Chicago after their show in January '79. So having had that experience, even though Terry Kath was gone, he had been gone for a year, so they had Donnie Dacus with them, who flirted outrageously with me until he found out I was only 16. It was very special, and you know, that was one of the most momentous concert and band meeting experiences of my life to this day.
Wow. I probably asked you this last time. I can't remember. Were you into Air Supply?
You know, I saw one of their very, very earliest shows, the Sydney Festival. It was called the Festival of Sydney in January 1977.
Mm-hmm.
And I met them at a record signing when CBS, their record company, was promoting their first album. And that was when Jeremy Paul was still with them, who then went on to be in the Divinals. Funnily enough, I saw them, I guess, a few times because they played some of the free concerts that my favourite radio station, 2SM, put on. I didn't really follow them into their power ballad, international era, but I went and saw them here in 2019. I was working for the PR agency my client was this venue in Palm Desert, Agua Caliente Casino, and Air Supply were playing. So I went out to sort of be the PR person on hand. And I showed Russell Hitchcock and Graham Russell the photos from that first concert that I saw them at. And their autographs in my autograph book. I showed them, and they were absolutely blown away that I'd kept that stuff. And I did try to get an interview with Graham Russell for Songwriters Speak originally, but it was just one of the opportunities that fell by the wayside when I had to cull the chapters. So it didn't happen at the time, but he's a great songwriter.
Yeah, I mean, like, I never got into them, but like I have respect for their short window of success out here because they were huge. I mean, girls were
people still see them.
Yeah, like back then, I mean, girls were screaming for them. They sold out
Really?
arenas. Okay,
That's funny because they were never sexy guys.
I think they liked them. I think they liked their voices, more than their looks, in hindsight. But like this was like right at the height of the soft rock duo. There were Seals and Crofts, England Dan and John Ford Coley, and even though Hall & Oates is not really soft rock, they did have that aesthetic though because they were like R&B, blue-eyed soul based, But it was during that period of like the soft rock duos.
But what Air Supply did that distinguished them from some of those artists you've just mentioned, like Seals and Crofts, and is that Air Supply, I think, were the originators, or one of the early originators of the power ballad.
Yeah.
When a song, when the vocal in a song soars and when it builds to a dramatic crescendo, which is what then songwriters like Diane Warren and went on to perfect. I think Air Supply were early power ballad pioneers.
I agree, yeah. I mean, there's always been much debate of when the power ballad really officially started. I think in 1968, when Steve Marriott's The Small Faces? Yeah, The Small Faces did Afterglow of Your Love. That sounds like it was the template for Aerosmith's Dream On, and in every
Dream On!
Every hard rock power ballad that came after that, I think it started with The Small Faces' Afterglow.
Tommy, you're absolutely right about Dream On, and in fact, that's one of my earliest 45 one of my earliest 45 vinyl singles.
I had it on vinyl when I was a kid. My dad had Aerosmith's first album and used to play it all the time. And when I listen to it now, I go, God, Steven Tyler sounds so young and not fucked up yet. You know?
Yeah, I would have learnt that song from listening to American Top 40, and I still love that. The other, it wasn't learning it from AT40, it was just listening to radio. But the other, I don't know if it was a power ballad, but beautiful ballad from a rock and roll band that I loved was Angie from the Rolling Stones.
Oh yeah, beautiful.
My favorite Stones song is Angie, from which I believe was on Goat's Head Soup.
Yes.
So yeah, but power ballad, yeah, Dream On was a power ballad, but it was also a song, sort of, you think about Kansas Dust in the Wind, a song about, life is difficult,
Yeah.
I mean, life is difficult, life sucks, I'm depressed, woe is me. Whereas the Air Supply songs were genuine, powerful love songs building to an orgasm, a musical orgasm, if you like.
Yeah, I mean, Journey and REO Speedwagon and all those bands, Toto, I mean, the power ballads just became huge by the late 70s.
Yeah, I never thought about Toto songs as power ballads. I thought that they were very slick, cool. It's funny, I just finished listening recently to Steve Lukather's autobiography on Audible, and it was so interesting hearing how Toto got together and how those songs came together. And I actually met David Page very recently as well here in LA. Total legend. So yeah, I don't know that a song like Rosanna is a power ballad so much as just a very cool, slick love song. The whole idea of a power ballad, and this is a whole other conversation, but is that it builds to, a soaring crescendo. So Unbreak My Heart, Tony Braxton, which is a Diane Warren song. Those sorts of songs are ultimate power ballads.
Yeah, I agree.
Air Supply's, Lost in Love, its first hit, was a power ballad, 1977, whenever that was. Yeah.
I'm Facebook friends with Diane Warren's niece, and I didn't even know it till recently because she started posting pictures of the two of them together and stuff. And then I did some research there, and I was like, oh, it's her niece. Okay. Yeah, I think she's one of the best songwriters ever.
Have you watched the documentary on Diane Warren?
Not yet, but I heard it's pretty good.
It's called Relentless, and it's really interesting because it goes into her mind, because she's quite neurodivergent. She's an autistic savant.
Yeah.
Who the film really explores that and her childhood, and it explains so much about her. So I highly recommend that documentary. Also, the Janician documentary is really good.
I saw that a couple weeks ago, and I loved it. The trailer promoted it like it was like a social justice documentary of they didn't like me because I was Jewish or whatever, lesbian, blah blah blah. But then when I actually watched it, I was like, no, it wasn't that at all. It was
a bigger story.
It was a great, it had a bigger story, and it was wonderful. I enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah, and we haven't talked about, we talked about favorite films and favorite music artists, but first albums. My first ever album I bought by an artist as opposed to a K-Tel compilation was Bowie Pinups, but my second was Janician Between the Lines in 1975. And my third was Casey and the Sunshine Band. So there's three very different albums, but they were the first albums by artists that I got. And Janician's Between the Lines is still one of the greatest of those introspective singer-songwriter albums. sort of sometimes overlooked because people focus on Carole King Tapestry or, you know, James Taylor. But Between the Lines is devastating. It's devastating. There's a song on there called In the Winter.
Mm-hmm.
And it's one of the saddest songs you will ever hear in your life.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know so much about her history. I assumed that, like, 17 was like her one big hit and then she disappeared. But then when I
Oh,
went really in depth on her career and I'm looking at Wikipedia at the same time, I'm like, wow, I didn't know all this about her. That's so
yes.
cool, you know?
She's had different career moments, from Society's Child 2 at 17 to the stuff she did with Giorgio Moroder. And
Yeah.
she's very witty and she's very active on social media. But that whole album, it was a real album for me. It wasn't, I got it because I loved at 17,
Yeah.
but it was an album that every song on it, I mean, the title track, Between the Lines, is extraordinary piece of music.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, go back and listen to Between the Lines.
I certainly will. Now tell me about this 20th anniversary edition of Songwriter Speak.
Well, there is no new edition,
Oh, okay.
but I urge people to buy my book if you haven't bought it yet, because oh my God, it's a good book. How you tell them how good it is. It's like,
It is.
it's got 40 chapters of very in-depth interviews with iconic songwriters whose careers began in Australia and New Zealand, but many of them are very international. And we touched on Olivia Newton-John in this chat, and her main songwriter, John Farrar, is in there, who wrote those great songs from Greece, You're the One That I Want and Hopelessly Devoted to You. And Steve Kipner, who wrote Let's Get Physical for Olivia. And the guys from Little River Band, Glenn Shorrock and Graham Goebel. Graham Goebel, of course, wrote Reminiscing,
Mm-hmm.
which is one of the most played I think it is the most played Australian song ever on American radio.
Nice.
And Colin Hay from Men at Work, and the late Chrissy Amphlett from the Divinals is in there.
Yep.
Rob Hurst and Jimmy Ginny from Midnight Oil. Nick Cave, one of the longest and most in-depth interviews Nick ever gave on songwriting, is in my book, Songwriters Speak. And it originally was published on the 1st of August in 2005.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a big launch at the home of Glenn Shorrock and his beautiful then wife, Jo, with a lot of the songwriters there at the party. It was actually one of the best nights of my life. I don't seek the limelight. I never see myself as I've always been a writer and a PR person behind the scenes, behind the famous people. But the light shone on me that night, and I did a lot of TV and radio and press interviews for the book when it came out. And then, as you know, I republished it 2 years ago in 2023, when I finally figured out how to do a self-publishing version of it and get it as an ebook.
Right.
And I got quite a lot of media attention in Australia and a little bit here in America as a result of it. And now the book is just there. It's available. It's a classic work. You can get it on Amazon or whatever your favorite online bookseller is. And I would love to sell some more copies. So hello, lovely listeners who love music.
Yes.
Songwriters Speak by Debbie Kruger.
Yes, it's a wonderful, wonderful book. Let's end this on a couple of fun questions. Do you remember the first time you saw a porn movie?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very clearly. I was 17, 18. No, I think I was either 18 or 19, maybe.
Yeah.
So it was a little later, and it was called Inside Desiree Cousteau.
Oh.
And it was shown to me by somebody who couldn't believe I'd never watched a porn film.
Mm-hmm.
And he gave me the videotape and he said, play it. And then he left me to it. Made quite an impact on me. it did feature amongst other people the incredible Johnny Holmes with his incredible appendage,
Mhm.
and I I had never seen Debbie Does Dallas or any of those at back then when I was younger. But it's ironic because I had read The Happy Hooker, as I mentioned to you, which was on my mother's bookshelf.
Right.
So I'd read literary porn when I was only 12 or 13.
Mhm. Yeah, when I was 10, we had this channel. My mom worked for the cable company. We had this channel called the Spice Channel, and I'm flipping through the channels one night in the living room TV. It's just me. Everyone's asleep, and I turn on the Spice Channel, and there's a guy fingering a girl, right? And I'm just watching this scene, and then I turn it off and I run away in fear that I'm going to be caught. And then 2 years later, I had my first like make out experience, and I copied everything I saw, and like I don't know the name of that movie, but I'm glad it helped me. you
It
know,
was it was an instructional educational tool.
it was.
There you go.
People don't realize that too. Yeah. And then, do you remember the first time you discovered your belly button?
Oh my God. You see, now, I don't know if somebody told you this,
Uh huh.
but even mentioning the words belly button to me is like a trigger.
Really?
I absolutely hate belly buttons.
Really?
I have belly button phobia. When I was a very little kid, my school friends would tease me by poking their own belly buttons in front of me, and it
Really?
would kill me. I can't stand. I don't know what happened when they cut the umbilical cord when I was born,
Really?
but whatever it was, it created trauma in me. So if I see a pierced belly button,
Mm-hmm.
I cringe. I cannot understand why a woman would pierce her navel. It's
Mm-hmm.
repulsive to me. Belly buttons are hideous. I can't bear my own belly button. I can't bear
It's my favorite part of the
it. So
body.
that's my thing. That's my secret thing is my belly button phobia, but it's not very secret anymore.
Yeah.
You see, mine is a very deep innie, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of the problem. I think it's just so deep it scares me. So I can't believe I'm having this conversation on a podcast. Seriously, belly buttons are my they're a fear for me. It's a fear thing. It really is.
Sorry to dredge up a phobia there. I'm sorry.
It's such a strange last question.
Well, okay, here's a better last question. Do you have anything upcoming you'd like to mention?
Other than the 20th anniversary of Songwriters Speak, which we've just mentioned,
Mm-hmm.
I'm still trying to write a bunch of books that aren't getting written. Nothing public. I have a lot of writing to do. I have a lot of stories to tell, and I'm trying to find the financial space to do that, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
Um, but as you know, I've been back and forth between Australia and LA the last few years. I'm back in LA to stay. I'm loving it. I'm loving being just a short drive to the Hollywood Bowl. Well, not that short, but shorter than if I were in Sydney.
Right.
I love that it's summer. I love being here, and when I'm here, I'm inspired. So watch this space.
That is so wonderful. Debbie, I love you so much. Thank you so much for coming back on
Oh,
and nerding out with me
we,
today.
we really nerded out. Oh my God, what
Yeah.
fun. Thank you so much for thinking of me again. And yeah, I look forward to talking to you again at some point.
Yes, and have a great rest of your summer. Be safe out there. And yes, I will tell everybody go buy Songwriter Speak because it's an amazing book.
Thank you. You take care.
You too.
Bye.
Bye bye. Well, there you have it. Debbie Kruger. Oh my God. Isn't she just awesome? I enjoy talking to her so much. I can just talk to her all day. She is so funny too. If anybody out there loves Australian music, go read Songwriters Speak. It's a brilliant, brilliant book, and it's got great interviews with Australian musicians. It celebrates 20 this year. I thought she was coming out with an expanded version. I don't know why I thought that. Shame on me for brain farting. Well, until next time, this is Tommy Throwback Kovac saying there's no shame in living in the past because the present sucks. Later, dudes!